Hello and welcome to another IdeaCast. My name is Thomas Wittig and I'll be talking about how to unlock growth in your marketing funnel. Specifically, we'll be talking about 3 downstream key strategies for upstream growth impact. And the downstream tactics and upstream impact will be all about retaining customers and winning more clients on the top end of the funnel. And this will, of course, help us and be in the context of leveraging the viral growth opportunities that we have in the funnel eventually. So let me start out by walking you through a case study. I think this will illustrate the concepts fairly well. And we're talking here about, let's say, a service business or a software as a service business. So the starting point is a growing market, fairly steady growth. The company has seen, so the market is believed to go up from 100,000 customers steadily month by month. And so there's no end in sight. Of course, we know that's not true in each market, and we will come to that in a minute. So the company is deciding to launch a new product, a new service in month 6. Now, the result is somewhat so-so. So after an initial phase, and you see there's somewhat an indication of an S-shaped growth curve here, the business is declining, but nowhere near is the company able to capture the 100,000 customers that are in the market. So why is that the case? So let's unpeel the onion here. First of all, we have to take a look at the market dynamics. That's, of course, one factor. So even if a market is growing steadily, it could very well be that the market is declining. And this can be driven by different factors. For example, by demographic change, that simply people are moving out of the market and they are in a new age cohort, for example, which doesn't have the preferences for this market. Or they could be simply not interested in the product and not be in the market anymore. And so to contrast here the performance scenario, while the market is making this blue movement, our company is, let's say, showing a somewhat really low uptake here. So the question is, of course, what can we do in such a scenario, which is not too uncommon. Actually, a lot of companies are struggling with this phenomenon. And so, first of all, the key strategies that I would like to talk about is one is to increase the renewal rate, and we'll see what the implications are here. Second, to switch from, let's say, an annual renewal process to an automatic renewal process. Again, we will see what the implications and the impact is. And the number 3, which is a little bit of a tricky topic, so I have to caution you here, is to reduce the trial time. So this has, from a dynamic perspective, also a couple of side effects here. So when we talk about the sales and marketing funnel, rarely do the potential customers immediately become actual paying customers. So there's typically something in between. First, through some marketing magic, which we're not covering here in this topic today, but a little bit later, they become trial customers. And after the trial period, they may or may not decide to be customers who buy or subscribe to the product. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, the more customers and more happy customers we have in the trial group and in the actual paying group, and the more happy they are, the more they influence customers upstream. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. These are 2 important feedback loops that will fuel the growth here. Now, in reality, the marketing funnel is a little bit more let's say, sophisticated, so it has different steps. But here is an end-to-end picture how it essentially looks like. And it really doesn't make a big difference if you have 3 steps, 5, 10 steps, or 10 steps in your marketing funnel. The dynamic is pretty much the same. So we will simplify that here by simply showing the adoption process, as I explained it before. And then customers eventually, the contracts or subscriptions are expiring and they have to renew it again, or we're losing the customers for any reason. So we could lose paying customers, we could lose trial customers, or even potential customers at the top end of the funnel. Now, the question is now what to do. So we said we're going to do 3 tactics. One is auto renewal. So let's take a look at that one first. So the tactics that we could use here is, of course, we have to inform the customers early. It's important that we're not just switching from, let's say, an annual renewal process to an auto renewal process. And ideally, we have this option right from the beginning when the customers are signing up. Secondly, we could offer, for example, a bonus value for automatic renewal. So if you're in a situation where you have started out with, let's say, an annual renewal process and you switch over to an automatic renewal process, make sure that you also wrap it with some additional benefit so that customers can see the benefit. But most importantly, it's really important that the product is great and that you're delivering a product which customers love, because then it's easier to make these policy changes. Now, if we run this through our simulation here, what we find is that the automatic renewal is actually moving the growth curve up. And that is not only because we're keeping customers, but these customers, of course, have a compounding impact on the customers which are just entering the conversion funnel or about to enter the conversion funnel. And so that's something we need to keep in mind, even though, and I'm contrasting here let's say the base case and then with the additional effect. Even though it may look a little bit small here, keep in mind that these are flows of customers moving in. So every percentage that we increase the flow of customers moving in or the retention is actually compounding in our feedback system. The second tactic we want to take a look at is the increase of the renewal rate. So here's where it is actually impacting our conversion and growth funnel, and that's the flow when customers are expiring. So we have to increase this flow so that they are not leaving our value chain here. So the impact, of course, is pretty much the same. So the more customers we keep and increasing the renewal rate, the more customers we keep in our installed base. But also the same effects apply here, that the more we have in the installed base, it's compounding. Actually, what we can do here is, first of all, we can it's important to know that the retention really doesn't start at the point of retention. It starts actually with the onboarding process, because only customers who bought your product, who use the product, who love the product, are most likely to renew their subscription. So that's the number one, the first line of defense here. Secondly, make sure that the customers are using the product. So throughout the annual subscription process, or let's say the ongoing subscription process, you need to check in if people are actively using the product or becoming dormant, means they're not using the product. So if they become dormant, you need to find out why and how to reinvigorate the usage of the product. And for that, we need to implement a retention survey. And the retention survey needs to come fairly early in the engagement process, ideally after a short time after the onboarding process, to get a feeling and a heat check what people love about the product, if they continue to use it, what is missing, etc. And for those customers who actually finally decide that they leave our subscription, our business, we have to implement a lost customer survey. This is a great asset where you can actually extract a lot of information. And it's important also to do it in the right way, so that you not only get the stated importance, but what we call the derived importance. But more about that later in another idea cast. And of course, if you have a customer success team, make sure the customer success team is also engaging with the clients early on and not just shortly before the renewal process. And if you don't have a customer success management team, then probably it's about time to implement it. Now, the third topic I want to talk about is a little bit tricky. And here we talk about reducing the trial time. Basically, what that means is it's impacting this and this flow over here. So which means reducing the trial time means that people would buy sooner, but also they're moving out of this cohort, out of this box of trial customers much sooner. So what does it look like when it plays out? Now, here's the simulation again. And that's why I said it's a little bit tricky, because at the beginning you can see how it's accelerating our growth. So we reach the peak much sooner, but that also means that our decline is coming sooner. And we have less customers who are converting over time. So before you implement this, I can only encourage you to test. Test it in different settings with different cohorts, with different demographics, to get a better feel is what it's doing. And by testing, I mean not only doing a survey and asking customers, but really doing controlled experiments. So this is actually a little bit of a tricky situation. It can help drive an uptake. And keep in mind, the sooner the peak sales is arriving, which is here in month 30 in our case, approximately, the sooner you need to have your next generation product or your new market ready that you can enter with your product. Otherwise, you will face a declining customer base, and that's not actually funny to deal with. So what tactics could you use here? First of all, you could work with conversion incentives. So by that, I mean not only price incentives, but offering a bonus value. So which means you can bundle it with some training, workshops, etc. Secondly, you can offer a satisfaction guarantee, so that when people have only 30 days, you can say, okay, you have the first month free, and you can redeem the product or actually cancel the subscription at any point in time. Work with scarcity, so that you have a limited number of promotions available, which moves the funnel, let's say, more rapidly towards the point of conversion. Urgency means that you can have time-limited offers for the conversion during the time, so that people could actually use. And again, here comes our success manager. It's also important to assign success manager early on. And I would actually encourage you to assign a success manager during the trial phase, so that they can reach out, work with the client, especially if you're talking about B2B or larger scale solutions, which require, of course, more learning. And for that learning, I also suggest that you have tutorials ready, which lead to what I call critical moments or aha moments during ideally the first 10 days of a conversion process. The last thing that you want is, let's say, have a conversion, so customers are trying the product and leave them alone. So you have to build it into your conversion flow, into your product, into the user experience. That's why it's so important to focus also on the user experience. Now, here's the combined effect. So this is the red line. So if you put everything together, you see that you can significantly move your customer base up. And this, again, has two effects. We're keeping more customers in the customer base, and we have an impact on the network effects. So coming back again to this chart, this is actually where the impact is happening. So the more customers we have in these two buckets, the more are flowing actually from the potential customers to the trial phase. That's important to recognize. And here you see it's quite a substantial difference. Again, keep in mind, this is a rate. So here we talk about a flow of customers moving from a potential customer to a trial and buy segment month by month, on day by day. So that's important to know. Now, of course, this is highly dependent on the degree of word of mouth or network effects. And again, there's another topic that I will talk about. What is word of mouth and how does it happen? How does it bring out the accelerating growth or the, let's say, the S-shaped growth curve? But that's not the point here. The point is that the more people are in touch with each other, so if one customer is talking to more than one other customer, so the more they reach out to other customers, the more it amplifies the optimization that you're also doing downstream. And here I've run a little simulation experiment showing if you move, for example, let's say one customer is talking on average to 5 customers per month. All things equal, if you move up, let's say step by step, so from 5 to 10 to 30, you see that it has almost an accelerating impact. So also make sure that you understand what are your feedback loops and what is the viral potential and the word of mouth potential in your customer base, and make sure that customers are coming in contact with each other if you're doing a great job. Of course, word of mouth and network effects also work the other way. If you don't do a good job and you have a quality problem, that also amplifies. And that's something to keep in mind. Again, that's topic for another idea cast. So in closing, we talked about 3 key strategies for growth. And actually the interesting thing is these are downstream tactics in your sales funnel, but they have a significant impact also upstream. So make sure you leverage these key strategies. And we also talked about the dynamic impact. By dynamic impact, we always mean change over time. So here we're not looking at just a spot improvement in one area 1 month, but we're looking at how the improvement plays out over time. And last but not least, with all the ideas and all the things, the best thing is to try it out and run a couple of controlled experiments in a very controlled setting. And then you can see if it works for you and if you can roll that out to your complete sales funnel or your complete customer base. Now, this and more we discuss in the idea cast, so you're invited to join the idea cast. And if you have a question, just shoot an email, send a note, or post it in the related Facebook group. And the idea cast is, of course, connected to the social property. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And yeah, good luck with your growth strategies. And I hope it helps you accomplish what you want to achieve. Good luck.